don't give pricing on the first call. No, you can't wait till you get the decision maker on the call. Like, you can't give pricing. I mean, come on, man. Buyers are ready to self-service at like 40 grand. Like, if it's the first call, give a range. That's fine. You don't actually probably know. But I think for a lot of you out there, you have to think about those types of things. What's going on, everyone? Happy January. Welcome to another episode, number 17 of The Innovative Seller. Very excited for today's topic. I think when I talk to a lot of sales leaders, there's all this talk about AI. God knows I talk about it enough. There's all this talk about buyer behavior, changing. But one of the topics I don't think people are talking about enough is just the difference between how Gen Z prefers to interact versus, millennials and your baby boomers, right? And so today's episode is all about how Gen Z is going to impact your sales process in 2025. And so I'm super excited. I got a handful of topics we're going to talk about. First of all, I'm going to talk about the hop on a call mindset. How many of my friends in sales, you've been in sales for a long time, your boss always says, Jake, you got to get him on a call, right? So we're going to talk about that in sales trends. I'm also going to talk about this idea of purpose-driven selling, which for me, it's like if you're in sales, I think you need to be kind of purpose-driven anyway. And then on the tech trend side, has social media now, again, when we talk about our Gen Z, is social media where people want to interact? Do they want an email? Do they want a cold call first? Or would they rather you message them on LinkedIn? Would they rather you interact with something on Instagram, right? So we'll dive into social media as a first touch point. And last, but certainly not least in tech trends, I'm going to talk about what the impact of selling to Gen Z and technology together is doing to B2B sales training. And I'm telling you, man, as somebody who sees a lot of sales training, and we do a lot of custom work for our clients, sales training really needs to evolve. Sales is really the only part of an organization that I see that consistently says, you know what, we've got a problem in our sales org. Let's do a training on it for like 3 hours, and then it doesn't solve anything. So that's what we got for today, everyone. We're going to jump in. First, we're going to talk a little sales trends, then we'll talk tech trends. But first, just like every episode, we're going to cover the DM of the week. And again, if this is your first time watching, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your network, obviously, and always leave a comment, right? So we pull, the DMs of the week straight from the comments. So make sure as you're watching this video, something pops up, just drop it in the comments, and maybe we'll feature you on our next DM of the week. So everyone, let's get into it. The DM of the week, this is your chance to ask me a question. I try to answer all your questions. If you DM me on LinkedIn, I'll do my best to answer it. Usually I will. But what do we have this week for the DM question of the week on Gen Z?
All right, so this week's DM question of the week, Jake, is Gen Z's demand for transparency the new deal breaker in sales? How can I ensure my sales strategies align with their values, particularly when it comes to honesty, sustainability, and social impact? What do you got to say about that?
Ooh, that's a deep one. Here's what I'll say. I'm going to preface this. I think whether it's Gen Z or any generation, people want people that add value. Yes, we want people that are aligned with how we think philosophically, but we're also okay with a little bit of diversity of opinion, diversity of thought, as long as we don't feel like somebody's trying to put one over on us. So I think Gen Z is definitely more skeptical of the kind of the human-to-human interaction a little bit. They almost prefer, again, like a lot of these digital channels, there's a ton of data around this as well too. So look, I think transparency is critical, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that in the sales trends piece, where a lot of these techniques that we used to use, they're just like, look, dude, can I please just watch a video? Can I please just do this? So I think transparency is key. And here's what I'll say. I think people want to do business with people that align with them philosophically. Now, as long as they're not like off in right or left field, depending on which field you prefer to play in, I think people still want people that can add value. So to me, if you're aligned philosophically, great. But as long as you're not kind of putting out some crazy vibe and you're talking about how you can help them, I think most people are going to be okay with it, even if it's not, 100% alignment on values. But transparency, 100%. So appreciate that. As always, like I said, make sure DM me on LinkedIn, drop your question in the comments here on YouTube, and I'll make sure to get to those. So first up in sales trends, hop on a call. All right. How many of my sales people out there know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Where somebody sends you an email, a prospect says, hey, Jake, you know what? I got a couple questions about this, or hey, can you send me some more information? And the default is, Jake, let's hop on a call and talk through it. I know that's how I was trained in sales. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I may have trained reps to do that back in the day, right? Not necessarily now. But I think, look, Gen Z's preference for digital first engagement, I think I saw some stat. It was like, I think they prefer like 48% or something prefer, we'll put the actual stat here, like prefer a salesperson less experience, right? And so I think as a lot of people are thinking about, this idea of having to hop on a call, we have to have different plays in our playbook, right? And so I think the key that I don't see a lot of companies really understanding is how do I create true digital engagement? Not just like, some interactions on emails, but, am I using tools that are a little bit more interactive, like a Miro or Mural or something like that? And so for me, I think with a lot of the companies that I talk to, it's not about hop on a call is the right answer in certain scenarios, especially complex, multiple department. There's an issue involved, but you need to have digital engagement plays. And so I want a lot of you to think about that. One of my favorites is video. One of the things I talk to a lot of our clients about, our team, really focuses on, we do a lot of asynchronous video. A lot of like, hey, instead of just sending an email, you're doing a screen share. You're sharing, we use Vidyard quite a bit or Loom. So think about digital engagement, right? So hop on a call. It's like dying, but there is a time and a place for it. But I think for a lot of you, it's more about, do I have a process to actually keep people engaged? So for a lot of you out there, that's the thing I would think about in 2025. What are the things that I can do to do that? The next up in sales trends that I have here is, and Ziggy mentioned this in the DM, is the idea of transparency and kind of purpose-driven selling. Again, going back to the point before about hop on a call, right? The other big one I know, every salesperson can relate. How many of you can relate to this? If so, make sure you subscribe or like. Maybe we're aligned philosophically here, which is don't give pricing on the first call. No, you can't. Wait till you get the decision maker on the call. Like you can't give pricing. I mean, come on, man. How many of you would buy a product, right? Or even, I saw a McKinsey report, actually, I think I talk about it in the book, where it's like buyers are ready to self-service at like 40 grand, like 20 or 30% of buyers. And so for a lot of you out there, like holding back and being, non-authentic and just holding it back, even though you kind of know. I'm a big fan of giving ranges. If it's the first call, give a range. That's fine. You don't actually probably know. But I think for a lot of you out there, you have to think about those types of things. Pricing for me is a really big one. I also think a little bit around competition. I'm always shocked at how little salespeople actually know about the competition. So often it's like, well, we're better at them than this. And it's like, do you really even know that? And so when I think about transparency, those are the things that I think a lot about. And then maybe the last one I'll talk about is it's okay that you aren't the right fit. Are you transparent about, what? You're doing this. It sounds like it's working. You're doing this. It sounds like it's working. Look, it sounds like things are going really well based on this and this. Now, if these things come up, here's where I think we can help. Or better yet, like, look, it sounds like your real problem is this. Here are 2 or 3 people that solve that. If this thing comes up, which is what we do, then, here, I'm here to be a resource. So I think about this as, transparency in a couple different elements. I'm telling you all right now, in 5 years in B2B, everything will be transparent. Everyone will know what you charge so-and-so. Everyone will see the different reviews on what it's like to work with you. People will be in their own little community sharing little different things about you. So, the more that you can think about adding transparency now, the better. I'm a big fan of it in the sales process. I find, the amount of deals that I've won throughout my career by being radically transparent about, can I help? What are my concerns about the potential partnership? And I think a lot of salespeople struggle with that too, of just like, look, based on what you're telling me, if you don't have a team that does this, here are the things that we're going to need to do to make sure it's a success. So that's what I got there, man. I want everyone to think about that transparency, the idea of, again, like, are you meeting them where they're at? Again, do you feel like your purpose as a seller to truly help people? And I think that that's another issue. We talk about kind of purpose-driven selling a little bit. But those are my sales trends, right? My sales trends, my friends, is I want you to think about digital engagement. Do I have a process to actually digitally engage people, to get them excited to want to interact with me, right? And then do I have a process that embraces transparency, that shares freely, right? And I'm okay. And that also helps them to, get on their right path. Again, I'm okay if I'm not the solution every time. I want to help them get on their path. All right, so that's what I got for you all for sales trends. We're going to jump into some tech trends, right? And it's a little bit of mix because I think again, when it comes to interacting with Gen Z in particular, kind of the use of technology and the processes and techniques are so intertwined. So again, if you found value in the sales trends, make sure like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you. And let's jump in to some of my tech trends that I think we need to pay attention to in early 2025. All right, technology trends, and there's a little bit of sales trends mixed in here. Look, I've seen all the news, and I'm sure you've seen it too. People posting cold calling is dead, email's not dead. I'm telling you right now, like across our clients, and especially our Rev Optics division, cold call is very much alive. It's the combination of omni-channel. It's not like the cold call alone works, but like the combination of things. So, here's what I will tell you, is social media really becoming the first touch point? Is this where people want to interact? If I'm sitting there and I'm on my, LinkedIn, and by the way, that's fine to comment on someone's YouTube, to comment on someone's Instagram. I have no problem with that. No problem with that, right? Again, as long as you're being authentic, right? And so to me, social media platforms, this is where Gen Z lives. You can even see with LinkedIn, if you all haven't seen this, if you go to your mobile app, they've got a whole videos tab too that's just it's like the LinkedIn version of TikTok. So like, I'm not going to say it's like TikTok. It's like the LinkedIn version. It's like whenever they tried to do Clubhouse. God bless. God bless them. But again, what I think a lot of people are missing here is, I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit. Okay, when I was doing a lot of prospecting, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of calls I've made, or about millions of emails at this point. The goal was to get a meeting with one person, right? And so it was like, okay, Jake, you've got X, and think about teams that I built and manage. Okay, you've got X number of accounts. Jake, your job is to get a meeting with Nick Henderson. Nick Henderson's the VP of this. This is what he does. Your job, that's your job. And so because of that, the goal wasn't how much volume can I get out? How many emails can I send out? The goal was like, okay, what's the right message that's going to get Nick Henderson to engage? And I think we've lost sight of that a little bit. And so why I like social media is like, look, you can see what Nick's putting out there. Shout out to all the Nick Hendersons of the world, by the way. You can see what he's putting out there, and then you can interact. Again, I just feel like, to me, the answer is yes. I think that the first touch point in most of your social media outreaches should be a connection request with a thoughtful comment on a post, or a comment on a comment of theirs or something like that if they're active. If they're not active, skip ahead to email. I'm all for that, okay? So to be very clear, some people aren't active on social media. That's fine. Skip ahead. If they are active, for the 20, 30, whatever percent of people, and this is the other thing people don't realize, here's kind of a pro tip for you around technology, is LinkedIn is the only platform that shows me every single thing that someone liked or commented, right? And so most people on LinkedIn are lurkers, right? Like most of you on Twitter, right? Or maybe TikTok. I'm more of a lurker on TikTok. Well, I post a decent amount on TikTok now. If you haven't subscribed to my TikTok channel, go check it out for a lot of more like short video clips. But most people are lurkers. So you can actually go to activity on their LinkedIn tab, and you'll see, man, yeah, they haven't posted in 6 months, but in the last 2 weeks, they've liked and commented. So for a lot of you out there, I really feel like social media should be that first touch point, and trying to build, something, be smart. Think about, okay, well, he commented this, he did this, and be smart if it doesn't make sense as well too. But I'm a big fan of social media as the first touch point. I still think cold calling is here, but I like it as an omni-channel. Hey, Nick, actually, ironically, you popped up in my feed. I saw this thing happen, I've, had conversations with the folks at Caterpillar over the years. And, now here's what I'm up to. I'm going to shoot you, and I shot you an email as well too. Please feel free, shoot me a quick response. Let me know if this is something that's top of mind. It'd be great to connect, enjoy the content. Boom, you play to the ego. You show them that you're paying attention. You show them that you care about booking a meeting with them and not just getting out content. So yeah, I like social media as the first touch point. Okay, last but certainly not least for today's episode, again, hopefully you're getting value. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are. Share this with your sales team too, if they're trying to get better at booking more meetings, closing more deals. Let's talk about digital first B2B sales training. Okay, and I don't mean digital first as in like your content management system or your learning management system. I'm talking about how to think about how you're incorporating tools into your sales trainings, right? Because again, I talk to a lot of teams, and it's so interesting to me. You've got the enablement team that's doing like the trainings and the roadmaps. You've got the operations team over here that's doing the technology stack. And their roadmaps look like this. I talked to a lot of CEOs, sales leaders, our private equity partners too, and I'll say, how aligned is your enablement team to your strategic roadmap? And they start laughing. I'll say, all right, what about your RevOps team? And they start laughing, right? And so I think going forward, as you think about sales training, it's both, okay? And so I'm going to give you a very good example. A client of ours, about 100 plus salespeople, worked with us late August through October, November. And the goal is to help the AEs become more successful at outbound prospecting, right? A lot of AEs, you know who you are, you forgot, right? A lot of you forgot about prospecting, right? And now your boss is like, oh, hey, you need to prospect 30% of your pipeline. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So this is the project. So, how we approach this is first is like, okay, what's the outcomes? Met with each individual region, made sure every one of their leadership team, frontline leadership, just so you know, in any B2B sales training, the number one most important group is actually not the reps. It is the frontline managers, because they are the ones responsible for reinforcing it, right? So obviously the reps need to learn it, but the managers need to reinforce it. So some food for thought there. And met with the managers, we set bars. Then what we did is we made sure we had reporting set up. We had the right things that we could set up to track. What's the behavior we wanted to change? Okay, AE is doing a certain amount of outbound pipeline generation, right? Not like activities, but pipeline generation. Okay, great. So in parallel, we're working on the content for the deployment, not just the initial training, but the follow-on. We're working with the RevOps team to make sure we've got reporting, we've got the right data fields. We're getting those reports emailed out on a daily or weekly basis to senior leadership down. It's amazing what happens when reports get automated to accountability, by the way. And that's how it worked. And that month, October, when we rolled it out, it was their highest month by 44% over their average for 2024 for AE source pipeline. And so my friends, when you combine in your sales training, you don't just say, hey, we need a training for AE. No, you need an accountability matrix, right? So I want you all to think about that, right? So when you're deploying your next set of training, what is the technology component to help to reinforce and keep people accountable? And again, especially when it comes to Gen Z, because these people are using the technology, right? Most of the people that you have that are using a lot of these technologies are Gen Z, right? And so, look, as I kind of, wrap up episode 17 here, it's not, I think the oldest Gen Z person right now, I want to say is 27, something like that. I think that's where the cutoff is, 27. And millennials, obviously behave a lot like this as well too. We all do. As we as consumers want to do more things digitally without talking to people, Gen Z, like this is how they want to operate. And so if you think over the next 2, 3, 4 years, you think about AI and productivity, this ability to, make sure that you have a digitally, engaging process and that you're just as willing to digitally engage as you are to hop on a call is going to be absolutely table stakes. So for all my sales leaders out there, I want you to really think about those things. Are you really thinking about your digital experience? How are you fast tracking people who are already further down the pipeline? If you're a frontline seller, I want you to think about the experience you're providing. You control this. You can choose to send an email. You can choose to send a video. So I want you to think about, am I interacting with people differently? If I think about Gen Z, digital first, prefers transparency, wants to interact, more dynamic ways. What are you doing in your sales process to address that? So that's what I got for everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 17. You can find a lot of cool stuff. We talked about this in the book. The book came out in April. And still, we're talking about the same thing. So appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure if you got value out of the video, please subscribe to the channel. We really, really appreciate you. We've been growing quite a bit because of the show. Make sure to like the video, share it with your sales team, share it in Slack, and we will see you all on the next one. Thanks, everybody.